So I never really had the typical church experience, I would say. For many years, I didn't really go to church and never really learned the Sunday school stories.
I've been a Christian for about 15 years. I first became a Christian when I was 4 or 5 years old. My dad came into my room when I was young, right before bed one night. We were praying, and I asked him, why do we pray? What are we doing? And he told me about God and asked if I wanted to give my life to Jesus, and that's when I did it.
And I would say despite not going to church for a while, I always felt a little called to that aspect of life. So Cole and I have been friends for a long time.
I met Daniel in second grade. We were in the same second grade class, and my teacher, Mrs. Carroll, noticed that we were getting along really well together.
And there would be times where we would just hang out all the time. And then other times during elementary school, I didn't hang out with him at all. And it was kind of interesting how we would always kind of be brought back into each other's lives.
It was around the time that Daniel and I were in 7th, 8th grade, middle school era, that our relationship changed really to talking. That became something that we really enjoyed. And we talked about everything faith. And steadily that became a more and more common topic as it became a bigger deal in both of our lives.
By my junior year, I was having some really big struggles between faith and doubt, and kind of questioning whether the spiritual moments I had were really real. And this really troubled me a lot.
So one night after youth group, we went over to my house to hang out, and there was just something off with Daniel.
The phrase that I just kept coming back to was that I felt utterly dejected, because whenever I would hear a sermon or be in a worship setting, I would just be angry.
Eventually, after sitting there for probably 10-15 minutes, I just broke the silence and asked him, hey, what's wrong?
And then because of that anger, I just felt total guilt, because it's not what the typical Christian does. It's you're supposed to have faith, and I just couldn't do that.
That was something that was really shocking for me to hear from Daniel. He was someone whose faith I had always admired. So I asked him the question that I had always asked myself: do you still consider yourself a Christian?
And I had to wrestle with this question for a long time before I could answer, but I also couldn't say that I was, and so I eventually had to tell him no.
That must have been something that was really difficult to admit to himself.
And so realizing that, I just felt broken. And I think in an effort to keep me sane for the night, Cole just asked me if I wanted to go on a walk. And so we just walked over to Whitworth campus, and we were really discussing and trying to consider seriously whether God was real or not, and whether we would have to uproot our faith. And since that night, for the past months and years, I have come to a point where I could say with at least a little bit of certainty that I was a Christian. This hasn't been an easy process. There have been times where I've been very angry with God, but there have been also times where I felt like God has pursued me. And in all of this, I believe that it's a good thing to pursue these questions and these doubts that we have, because we do have them. And I believe that when we pursue them, we can find peace in that.
Come with